5 males went missing in or near the same part of town under similar circumstances. 1 has been found deceased. The other 4 are still currently missing. Join the investigation every Tuesday as we're just scratching the surface. We're trying to figure out if they're connected, or are they even associated? We're looking into the disappearances of Christopher David Bagley, Tanner Ward, Joshua R. Wellman, Jesse Leopold, and Sebastian, also known as Ty Hested. First, we'll start off with the basics on Christopher, also known as Chris David Bagley. He was last seen on December 14th of 2018. The day he disappeared, he was 31 years old. He's 5'11" and 185 pounds. Over the last few days, I've had the pleasure of talking with some of the members of Christopher Bagley's family. I've been able to speak with his wife, his mother, his father, his brother, or one of his brothers, and even his friends. There's some information that we're able to confirm, and there's other information that we're just not too quite sure of. There's also some information that contradicts the other, and there's also a bunch of holes. That's where you come in. We're hoping that you'll be able to help us figure out where these holes can be filled in and what information we need to fill those holes. We currently have a family and friends who are desperate. They're absolutely desperate to find Christopher. Please help us bring him home. So, let's go over the timeline. There's again a few things that we are able to confirm. At approximately 9 or 9:30 p.m., Christopher left with a friend. That friend's name is Lydia. This information has been confirmed. You see, they weren't just hanging out. Lydia actually came to pick Christopher up. It was kind of odd, Courtney said, and Courtney's Christopher's wife. Courtney said this was odd because they had friends over at the time. So, let's just get back to the timeline. Chris left, and at some point, he was called back to come back home, as they, again, had friends over. So about 10 or so, maybe a little later, he actually came back. The weird thing is that he left again around 10:30 p.m. that same evening with the same lady. She's a friend of Chris, but she kind of just appeared all of a sudden, says his family. His family doesn't really know a whole lot about her, except she claims that she's cooperated thus far with law enforcement. That same Lydia, I guess she just waited for him or something. But that information has also been confirmed that she picked him up, and Chris said that he was going to go run some errands. He might have also mentioned maybe taking care of some things. So back to the timeline. The next thing that we can actually confirm is that at about 2:30 a.m., Chris was seen on CCTV footage using his debit card at BP. There's been some information that I can't exactly confirm yet, but I don't think this BP was right next to where he lived either. I'm pretty sure it was a short distance away. So we're trying to figure out exactly maybe where he was those 4 hours, but we'll get to the holes later. Lydia said that he drove her car after they went to BP, and he took himself to Paul Hoff's house. This information again has been confirmed. Paul Hoff has been interviewed by law enforcement, and he's told law enforcement that yes, Chris was in fact at his house that day, but he left at about 4:30 a.m. So here's some information that we're still trying to confirm. Here's some information that we're also trying to gather and either poke more holes through to see if it's even a theory at all, or to fill in those holes. We're trying to figure out where exactly Chris left to go the first time and the second time. Where was Chris from 10:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m.? What kind of things was he up to, and what was he getting into? We know for a fact that he left around 10:30 p.m. because his wife said so. And we also know for a fact that at 2:30 a.m. he shows up on video. So again, that's confirmed. Where did he get, or when did he get to this other friend's house? I'm not exactly sure how, I don't know, how late after 2:30 he showed up, but sometime before 4:30 he showed up at the friend's house, and he also left. Where did he go after Paul Hoff's house? Also, why was Chris picked up by Lydia when he had his own truck? Why did Chris go to BP and then to Paul Hoff's house? It's just kind of an interesting sequence of events. Someone had to have seen him after he left. Are you one of those people? Are you going to be one of those people that's going to be able to help us solve this crime? As you can probably tell already, there are a lot of interesting and strange circumstances surrounding Chris's disappearance, in addition to the disappearance of the other men we're going to explore as well. Some of these circumstances that surround Chris's disappearance are the following. He told one of his best friends that he was being followed. We think he was actually being followed for a decent amount of time before he disappeared. Someone had also been watching Chris's house prior to his disappearance. This had been confirmed also by his wife, who saw somebody sitting out staking out their house. His family, including his father, has been told to stay away on at least 2 other occasions at this point. Anytime it seems like they're getting close to something or following a certain direction, they're told to back off. He and his wife had split up for about 4 months. He had just moved in about 2 weeks prior to him disappearing. He was finally getting his life back to where he seemed to want to go with his wife. They were getting back together and things were finally seeming to go his way, but he was still kind of acting strange. He was also said to have not been hanging out with the best people. Again, him and his wife had been split up for about 4 months, and he had to keep himself occupied, I guess, during that period of time, and I guess he found himself hanging out with a lot of bad people. He was a prior alcoholic, and he's been clean for about 8 years or so. His wife did confirm this, and his family is fully aware that he does have skeletons in his closet, but they're more than willing to discuss that information, as I sat on video chat with both of his wife and his father for about an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half the other day, and we discussed things in regards to his past, as he was known to smoke and possibly sell marijuana. He had even come clean to his family a few weeks prior to his disappearance, and we're almost wondering if maybe this had something to do with his disappearance. It's possible that Chris was trying to get away from that life and trying to get away from some of those people that he had found himself hanging out with while over the last few months and while him and his wife had split up. It's been said that there might have been a hit out on him for about $30,000. Chris and his wife did have people over when he left, so he didn't just leave. He had people over. It's just really strange. The friend who picked him up, again, was not there at the time hanging out. She wasn't one of those people that was hanging out at their house. She came specifically to pick him up. He does not currently have his wallet or his car keys. His cell phone is still missing, but it was on for 4 days after his disappearance. They are still trying to locate his cell phone, and we are still taking any and all leads that can take us to his cell phone, any information about his whereabouts after he left Paul Hoff's house, and any additional information and leads that you think may help this case. Unfortunately, behind this missing man, there's a family who desperately seeks answers and who misses him terribly. There's especially a little girl who misses her daddy. She's written Valentine's Day cards and envelopes out just so this information can get out to her daddy. She's also made her own missing persons posters and hung them up on the door. She wants everyone to know that she is looking for her dad. Her mother, oh my gosh, my heart breaks for her mother and for her daughter. Oh my gosh. Courtney, the wife, she has to listen to her daughter cry and cry for her daddy. And she hugs his picture and just wants to find her daddy. There is a little girl who is literally in agony, missing her father. There are other members of his family who are also desperate for answers. He was a brother. He was also a father. He was a husband. He was a son. He was a grandson. He had multiple siblings. He was an all-around good guy. He had skeletons in his closet, as do we all. But he was an all-around good guy, and his family and his friends just want him to come home. These are some of their messages. There have been numerous developments in this case since Chris went missing. One of the most significant actually happened most recently. That was the arrest of Paul Hoff. If you remember, back from a few minutes ago, Paul Hoff's house was actually the last place that we can confirm Chris was. Paul has confirmed to police that Chris was at his house that night and that he left about 4:30 a.m. He admitted to seeing Chris that evening, and again admitted that he left. So we're not exactly sure how Paul plays into this. We just know that he was one of the last people, if not the last person to see him, and he is currently locked up right now. Boost Mobile has also been unable to track or ping his phone. Chris's phone is also still missing, so we're trying to figure out if we might be able to track down his phone. If anyone has any information in regards to how we can locate his phone or where his phone might be, whether that be sold or stolen, or even if it was destroyed, we'd love to have some of that information. Please contact us and let us know. In the meantime, we're still trying to confirm some phone records and see if we can track down some location information based on some of his accounts that he might have had on his phone. They also basically have the whole alphabet working on his case right now in Iowa. They have the ATF, the FBI, and the DCI currently working on this case as it stands. There's also a $25,000 reward for information that leads to the location and well-being of Chris, or the location and conviction of those responsible in his disappearance. Please, if you have any information, contact Linn County, Iowa Sheriff at 319-892-6100. As you can see, there are a whole lot of people out there that really miss Chris, and they would really like for him to come home. So again, if you have any information at all, please be their voice. Please be the voice for Chris. Their family, that whole family, Chris's family, his friends, they're not going to give up. They have told me they will not give up, and they refuse to give up until they have answers and until they have Chris home. So please, continue to help us bring in tips and solve this crime. Again, please contact Linn County, Iowa Sheriff at 319-892-6100.